Thanks, ladies and gents. Might make a start because you're probably busier than I am. We've got a few questions to answer. My name's Mark Gunning. I'm one of the
CFA mate, talk up.
Does everybody up the back hear me? I don't want to have to shout because it'll annoy people in front. My name's Mark Gunning. I'm one of the two deputy incident controllers attached to this fire. Home for me is normally the Otway, so if you're going to start talking really local roads and stuff like that, I'm going to throw over to somebody else, but I know the general area reasonably well, so hopefully I can give you a different overview. And probably two parts of the overview from an operational point of view. Scott will talk about current operations in your patch. I will talk about current operations in respect to what we call in the complex, which is 5 fires, pretty well east of the Snowy. So, wait for a couple of people to settle. Come in. All right, so with me today, Scott Armstrong's the Fire Operations Commander looking after this part of the area. So he's with us. We've got Richard from Victoria Police. We've got Tony and Lindsay from East Gippsland Shire. Darren from Deppy looking after agricultural recovery. Yvette from DHS. And Shirley from our chaplaincy service. And that's not our chaplaincy service, that's yours too. So if you need a chaplaincy service, Shirley's here to help. And Chris Lewis as our community liaison officer for the fire agencies. So, come in. Right, so I won't go too much into fire history because a lot of you have been to public meetings before. You know we've had some fires, you know they've got big. We've got significant issues with establishing control lines. It's a huge perimeter. For those of you that do have internet access, I invite you to look at some of the satellite pictures that show this fire bigger than the whole environs and outer suburbs of Melbourne and Port Phillip Bay put together. So there's some really good imagery of that. And I think that message in government about 2 days ago. So
what website is that we can look at?
It's actually on the NASA website, but the Met Bureau in Australia put links in. But and look, it was probably looking at the fire run, it was probably taken last Sunday, so it was probably at the height of the fire. So we're looking at and you've got the newsletters in front of you, but we're looking at well over 130,000 hectares between all the fires, around about 126,000 hectares in respect to the main fire. I'll say, and you probably look at the map and say there's some of that edge that's not quite right. That's probably true. We're ground truthing with some of the troops on the ground because the aircraft, because of the smoke, and they haven't been able to get up for a few days. So we're pretty confident in where the control level of the lines are, and we're going to update our mapping over the next 24 hours while we've got some kind of weather conditions to do that. So that's where we're at. Now, some of you live right near the fire area, some live in the fire area, and some live outside. For those that are outside, current weather predictions are very kind to us till about mid next week. We'll start to see a little bit of northerly flow, not too much, not too hot. Then we'll see some cold weather move in midweek, and they're saying snow on Bawbaw. So when I say cold, if you live up in the higher country, you'll know it's cold. Certainly feel the difference. Then maybe back into a warmer weather flow next weekend. And when I say warmer weather flow, potential for fire type weather next weekend. That's a long range forecast, and you and I know how the Met Bureau go with those. So that's what they're telling us. That's the best information we've got on that at the moment. As a result of that, there's been a lot of work done. You would have seen more involvement in our New South Wales counterparts over the last few days, strengthening up control lines. I've got to say to you, that dotted line on the border, and Scott will tell you this, it's meaning nothing if the fire runs north and you're north of here. It means nothing to us. We've done a lot of work with New South Wales that should this run, we don't expect it to run, but if it did, we've done a lot of work around what might happen if it goes there and what tracks we need to access, things like that. So that work's been done over the last 48 hours, and that's where that's at. On the eastern edge of the fire, further south, there's still some backburning operations around Goongra, and the Erranundra is pretty wet. We can't do any burning over there, it's just not going to take. So that eastern edge. Further to the west in the snowy country, there's been some burning operations and some good line establishment, so from the snowy down that west side looks pretty good. You've seen the tree crews. I know some of you have had angst about roads. Please don't go crook at the policeman that marks the traffic point on the end of the road, because he only does what the fire agency's asking to do with traffic management points. I spoke to some of you yesterday who told us that was a huge issue, and as inconvenient as it has been, please know that it's there for your safety, and you might say, that's crap, well, I know my roads, all those things. If a tree falls on your head while there's an active fire, sorry.
From here to Dyer, it made the fire didn't impact any of the road. Okay, we drive that road all the time.
I'll finish what I'm going to say, and that'll explain. If a tree dropped on somebody's head in the areas that are affected, we have liability for that, okay, as fire agencies, so safety is paramount. Second thing is, while there's fire machinery, and when you drive these roads, but coming round the bend and a low load or an excavator or something coming the other way, might be commonplace, but it's still a danger. So while fire crews are very active, we also do road management. Now, you might say overkill, you might say whatever, that is the policies that we're given to work within, and they're there for your safety. Now, biggest fire in Victoria to date this year, 130,000 hectares between the lot. Not one serious injury and not one fatality. Now, from where I sit as a fire agency commander, that is a success story. People have heeded warnings, okay, and they've done the right thing. Many people did leave, and if that was your plan, you've implemented your plan, or you've stayed and you're well prepared and that was your plan, thank you very much for doing the work you did, because that's the result's good. So, all right, so that's, as I said, that's the overall strategy. For local operations, I might just show Scott, give you a bit of an overview of what's happening on your patch now.
Thanks, Gary. For those of you who didn't catch it, Scott Armstrong. So I'm the divisional commander working out of Bendock. I've been here since Tuesday, and I'll be timing out on Sunday. And Mike Turner, the local forest person, will be back managing the same position as me come Monday. So
before you go ahead, I've got grave concerns about that, because there was issues initially with person. And it is, we have got, well, personally, I'll speak for myself, not the rest of the area. We have got grave concerns, and I've had it noted in an information centre and minuted that we are not a social experiment for firefighting in 2014. And a lot of the people that made the initial decision not to attack the fire, we've lost faith in them. We have, well, I have. I've lost confidence.
I have too, Dave. I have too.
Can I ask you to do one thing? I spoke to David outside, I've spoken to him yesterday, I've spoken to a couple of others. If you want to bet at us, I'm hanging around, all right? You can come and yell at me, and you can talk. If we're going to review policy and strategy that happened, then the time for that's when we finish doing what we've got to do. The purpose of this meeting is... You won't be here then? Hey? You won't be here? Well, yeah, I represent the agencies, and the agencies will be here, all right? So today's session is about moving forward, giving you best information. If you want us, and look, I can't start an inquiry for you. He can't start an inquiry for you.
Could we move a motion? Could we move a motion as a community that we want a full and open and transparent inquiry into the running of the fire, and if we can't move a motion and if it's not noted and acted upon, what do we have to do to get one?
Right. Post-fire, talk to Bully, because this is an information meeting, it's not a community, it's not a constituted meeting of the community. We're here to give you information. You want to do that separately? Fine. I'll ask you to hear us out.
No, don't give us the spin. It is the biggest fire, but it's the biggest stuff up imaginable. We all know there were lightning strikes you didn't attend to for weeks. We know we were prioritised to be stone mudwash slabs. It is a disgrace.
I can't undo what's done. And
I know.
I told you that yesterday.
Now,
I'm not trying to, and I'm really...
yesterday, don't spin it, otherwise I'm out of here. I'm not listening to bullshit. Right.
I'm not trying to spin or hide, but what we are here to do is give you information as we know it and move forward. Now, if the inquiry is part of moving forward, I can't do that for you. All right, so I'm not going to solve that here. There's probably people here that need to know about ag recovery, when roads are going to be more, all those sort of things. Yeah, well, can we work through it and move forward, please? As I said, if you've got individual issues, I'll note them, I'll log them, and I'll take them back, but I can't solve them today.
We understand that.
Yep.
And I resent what you're saying about venting the anger here. Because there's a lot of people here that are not only angry, they are hurting. And if we don't give it to you, then the message will not go further up.
I'm seeing people.
And I personally don't take it against you or any of the people involved. However, I feel that what's been done was absolutely wrong, and the message must go through. So if you don't take our message up...
We've got a staff member here that's logging concerns, and as I said, as far as if you want to vent and you've got specific issues, I'll take them on board, but from a community point of view, can we work through what we've got to work through and deal with some of that at the end?
Can you confirm or deny if Tim Bull has come through the area yesterday?
Yeah, no, I was with you.
You were with him?
Yeah.
Now I'm asking you, what sort of emergency service is he providing?
Well, he doesn't provide emergency. He wanted an overview of a few issues, and he went to a few people who contacted his office and couldn't get to all. And after he left here yesterday, he met with the Deputy Premier at Marlow, and I can tell you now that Peter Ryan went back with a range of issues, and your issues, and some issues from up the front, and they have been discussed with our chiefs in Melbourne the last 24 hours.
I find that absolutely wrong,
So,
because we have been losing animals, and we're still looking for animals within the destroy. We were relying on some people from Bonang to come this way and give us a hand, and that service was denied because it was not warranted as an emergency service. Now I'm asking you, you said before that the roadblock is there to protect people from going through, getting knocked with falling trees and whatever. Now I'm asking you, in all honesty, whether it's Tim Bull or anybody else, what sort of emergency service was he providing? First. Second, why he only met with few people that he chose or whoever chose and not everybody? Because not only few people have been hurt here, but everyone. So there should have been a public meeting at an appropriate time.
And he's talking about that opportunity that could be provided. So
I hope you're hearing this.
I'm not, somebody else is, but I'm hearing what you're saying. All right, can we move forward, because some of those ag issues will come up, but can we deal with Scott, and then we'll hand over to our ag recovery people later on, all right?
So is this meeting is actually minted or not?
It is, there's issues, all your issues are captured, documented, and they are fed back in, all right?
Okay.
I'll finish that, all right?
Fed to who?
They go back in to me, well, they come to me, they go to my controller, and then they go into the government system through various agencies. Now, I've got a plan to finish at the end, tell you where we're going from here as far as recovery goes, which is probably the bigger issue affecting most of you. So if we could get through the response stuff, get to that, hopefully we'll answer a few questions.
Can I quickly ask for everybody's information, who is your control?
Andrew Morrow is the current incident controller of the fire. Right? He's with it. But just, I want to make something clear. Scott on a day-to-day basis, me on a day-to-day basis, and Andrew, we work for different agencies, okay? When we run a fire, we work for the state, okay? Craig Lapsley is the fire controller for the state of Victoria, he's the state controller. We answer a regional controller that can wear a CFA deputy or park shirt, and when we're here, we work for the state. We're paid by CFA, that's who I work for, all right? And I don't hold agency allegiance in that regard. Neither should any of the team.
All right. I don't want to do this to death because I think most of you are probably fairly aware or familiar with where the fire edge is. I suppose the message that I'm giving you to you today, that as of yesterday, we got the fire edge in the Bendoc division to what we call contained. Now that was a big influence in being able to lift those traffic management restrictions, and we worked really hard this week to get as much done as we have. And there was also the tree risk work that had to be completed. But at this point in time, we still have a number of unburnt areas. We do have contained edge which has been burnt off. Some of these areas might be a bit thin. Over the next few days, weather permitting, we need to try and burn these areas out so they don't flare up again when we get the next bit of warm weather. So you'll still see smoke activity, there'll still be a lot of CFA, New South Wales, DEPI people getting around. We'll probably be using aircraft to light these up when the weather's permissible, and we'll still be just tidying up little bits and pieces along this edge with a little bit of burning out. So within the public land areas, private land areas, there is a lot of edges that have not been tracked, so to speak, with the machine. They're just dead cool edge. Okay, these have been inspected and patrolled vigorously and will continue to be so for the next few days until we're absolutely comfortable with it. At this stage we don't have any loose areas that haven't been contained. We've had a number of spots over in the bottom of the Cabanandra, north of Bonang, which were quite difficult to catch and contain, as well as one very critical one we had up here in the Dedic sector, just not far from McKillops, and that was a big save, that one on Thursday, and that's what slowed down some of our activity on Thursday, because we had all our concentration on that little bit there, because if it went, that means our whole strategy for this was going to go down the drain. But I'm very confident the pine plantation now looks very quiet. We did a little bit of back burning down around Rising Sun yesterday. There's probably still a bit of smoke coming up from around that. We want to try and strengthen that as soon as, if we get an opportunity this afternoon, we'll be putting some fire back into it as well. But overall, given the weather that we've got over the next few days, we're now looking at strengthening some of our contingency lines, the fallback lines further out, so utilising the machinery to get out further and pre-prepare some of those areas if worst case scenario the weather does pick up and we get something to pop out again. But fingers crossed the weather is on our side. We have sufficient resources to do what we need to do at the moment, which is a big bonus. We struggled a little bit earlier in the week, and particularly Sunday and before that. But at this stage we're doing very well. So thank you for your patience, and I just think you've been very tolerant under very trying conditions, and I hope you can appreciate the restrictions that we have to deal with to try and make it safe. Is there any questions on that?
Any questions, Scott? Probably one of the other things, and not so much up here, but a little bit down further south, is some burnout that we want to do, but we don't want to do it while there's moistures in the air and humidity's high, because it'll just be a mess. It won't take properly, so probably...
But if it rains, it puts you out of the job.
Nice, isn't it?
Excuse me, got a question on the repayment line you put down at Suncoat.
Yeah.
I've been living here 27 years. You come and burn that midsummer, hottest summer on record in some places, right? Why haven't the forestry burnt that?
Why hasn't been done before?
Yeah. I've been here 27 years, mate. You come in the middle of summer and burn it.
I can't speak about the local fire protection plan because I'm not local, but I hear what you're saying.
Yep.
And the opportunity comes around every year when there's the public consultation period to have your contribution on what should be burnt and what shouldn't.
What they do with the burns up here, mate, they just burn the same place every time. They don't go to different places. They just burn the same place, mate. That, we get a lot of weather from the southwest, okay? My house is not far from forest land, right? And still yet they don't burn it.
Well, I encourage you next year as part of...
They can burn it. You come up and burn it in the middle of summer. Beautiful. Absolutely spectacular.
That's a good outcome.
Right. The other thing is, as I said, stuff that's gone before the firefight, that's going to have to come somewhere else, because we don't have to be able to
work on dangerous and hazardous trees, both on the public-private interface and on the main roads. But there's been very little or no work that's been done on private property because we don't have the authority to do that. So on private property there still are quite a lot of dangerous trees, so please be aware of that and be looking out for them.
Sorry, you.
Just a question. I've been staffing delegate all week at Libya. This morning, a lot of fire trucks were seen heading north, and they anticipate that we have enough still here to monitor what we're doing, or some others are coming.
So they were the CFA trucks?
CFA,
Yeah, no,
like Mount Elias or whatever.
yeah, no, they finished their tour and they were due to go home.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I saw them yesterday, weren't they?
Yeah.
But we're bringing some New South Wales crews across from Urivello, I think, as
Yeah.
a replacement for those. But bearing in mind, good opportunity for us for the next few days to catch a bit of rest, because the nighttime stuff, it's virtually impossible to do any work at night now with the conditions.
I just thought with other people being around, it's good for us to know that answer, because I'm seeing them go that way and I live here and thinking what's happening when we're doing this containment line, so I think
If you
people need
popped
to
up the
know
delegate there, you'd see some
that we're
trucks.
anticipating some back. I think that's a good thing.
How to work all night, on your own too.
So, and look, some of, and look, you know, and I will thank some of our crews, because some of these guys have come from fire to fire, and over the last 8 weeks, some of them have been absolutely flogged to death. So, and I know that doesn't probably ring home to visit some of those crews. Haven't been at work for 6 or 7 weeks. So.
And just another quick one. People at Goongerah who can't get in and out to come to these meetings, are you guys somehow
There was a
planning?
meeting yesterday at Goongerah.
Well, some of them are in town still. One I'm staying with is anxious to get home, but you know,
and
not
look,
allowed
that's
home.
probably from the Orbost up to Goongerah. Some of the work that's happening there is all around burn and tidying up that line, because if we get that northerly push, really important to block the fire run if it comes in. So the Bonang's a strategic line being worked on at the moment, so that's the work in the southern end. From the northern end, it's pretty well tree driven, and there's a little bit of work around the entry point fire-wise yesterday, and probably a little bit today. But as we tidy that up, priority is to try and get the roads open, and for those crews that I was up here yesterday, I gave them 3 priorities: trees and roads, trees and roads, and trees and roads.
As I said before, roads haven't been closed.
So, really well.
When do you propose to reopen it?
As soon as the work's done, and look, it is, can I say, community access is a priority for it. It is a priority for us. It has been a priority for a couple of days, fire activity. So
I spent 4 hours in Orbost yesterday going backwards and forwards to the DSE trying to get an answer, and I couldn't get an answer.
yeah, when safe, well, the answer is when safe, really. But we are working as good as we can. And I'll tell you now, yesterday I wasn't happy with some of the work the arborists were doing, because they were really painstakingly slow and not a lot of result for the speed they were up, and they got the message loud and clear, and we did some other work around it. So yeah, I will promise you, we want to get people home, because we need to try and get back to some sort of normality as quick as can, get help and get the help we need to get back on track. So.
Mr. Pleasure, David, you do it.
Sorry, I'm delighted that people from Northwest who have sensitivities to greater sensitivities and greater awareness, I think, particularly of certain weather patterns, to working in hills and mountains, are more responsible, have been more responsible in the last few days for the strategic lighting up between pines and, you know, back of bush from Tubbock through. I would like to request you to stay longer, because I, like other people, am less happy, considerably less happy, with the earlier level of management decisions. Not at all. And I think that you've got to measure people to be making those decisions at the present time.
I'd like to make a point in public that my understanding is that if you neighbour the pines, you are required to be notified if it's on fire or if you're back burning, neither of which has occurred. And watching and acting, when you can't see more than 50 yards ahead, is a bit of a mystery to me.
Pretty sad reflection yesterday to get a decision on a management decision as to, for 500 cattle's welfare, that I had to ring the State Control Office and I had to wait for 6 hours for an answer to the status of the fire in the pines. We are 3.5 kilometres from the pines. We are next in line.
All right, well, Scott's talked about the pines today. Is there a specific question? To answer your question, I don't know the statutory obligation to inform. I don't know the statutory obligation. So that's the answer to that one.
Pretty sure of it, and one phone call would have been handy.
We would
certainly
Yeah, that-
the cause of the law of flipping.
And if the fire is in the ponds as part of the bigger fire, there would be so there's no obligation under the CFA.
We're going to flog the information to death, right? 2 o'clock Sunday, it was really motivated. And I requested of all the tourists that were in the area, I requested one to stay at my house so as at least I could get up-to-date information while the chopper was still flying, right? And then when that person showed some initiative to help a local and the commander or the person on the ground realised that that person wasn't in the wagon wheel and with the old Indian fight on the prairies, get up here, you're a wasted resource. And that was 2 o'clock on Sunday, and that is the last current up-to-date information I have had.
Well, the opportunity gave us, so Scott's across the issues in this area. I can't undo what's done, but I'll say this is the opportunity. If you've got a current question, can we deal with the befores and who did what's later?
I've got a question for you, mate.
Yep.
When they come up there to see if I have a plan, they did not ask to see my plan. All they did is look if I had water. That's all they did. Nothing else, right? The preparation, the CFA was up here a week prior to Sunday. I have an abandoned house about 20 metres from my place, a fire hazard. I told them that I was going to defend that property. They left that hazard there. They did not retard it. They done nothing. This community there was no preparation. The only blokes that done preparation, mate, was the bulldozer drivers. No one else done nothing. The forestry done nothing. The CFA done nothing. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. We were abandoned. I was watching the Kilmore fire and they got near a house, they had a helicopter. I couldn't even get the fucking forestry to squirt me fucking yard.
Russell, enough language, thank you.
Sorry. That's the situation, mate.
No, I've heard, and I'm here.
It's a joke. A complete joke. We were abandoned. They had 60 forestry vehicles or more sitting in this paddock. They come down to my place at dinner time on Sunday and said they could not fight the fire because of radial heat. We had an 88-kilometre wind registered at the Delegate Airport that was blowing north to fucking Orbost. I'm sorry, I'm emotional, mate. Okay? They come down at 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock and told us radial heat was an issue. We're not coming to help you. That was it. You would get more radial heat off the sun on a 30-degree day, mate. I never seen them again till 10 o'clock. They come back and sat in the bus stop over the road from my place, 3 pigs on back, and done nothing. Didn't even come over. We were promised an attack team. What are they called, Sue? A strike team. Down here at the meeting. We were promised that. I got nothing. Well, why do you promise us things and we don't do anything? They give us false security. That's what they give us. And then you come and tell us you can't help us. You're a joke. A joke. And that's how all these people feel here. The whole lot of them.
Russell, I've heard it.
I've got a list here for you, mate. So you better have a long time before you go to that next meeting.
As I said, I'll stay under. And look, I've heard that from more than one person.
And we don't believe anything you say anymore. You've blown it. You've blown it.
I'll talk things down, but what happens, myself and my father were at a property at Bonang when that hit, and I don't think it was the wrong decision to pull everyone out. There was a dam, that fire was uncontrollable and by any amount of no.
It depends where you were, James, to where
that's true, Russell.
Okay.
Touch on that now.
Right.
But after those wings went and after that cooled itself off, it was just a running edge, probably about a metre high at best. And that's when they should have all been sent back in because the winds had gone, it had cooled down, and they could have stopped a lot of these houses burning down and possibly those fires getting into the pines. I don't know if they spotted in there or not, but I know a couple of them run in, and that could have all been stopped if they had been brought in. I know it was probably 12 o'clock in the morning and everyone was buggered from a hard day's work, but they should have, they were there right here at Bonang, as Russell said. As soon as that initial shock had been hit, they should have been back there.
And whether you're emotional, whether you can't, The issue is the issue, and we need to look into it, but it's done. All right? I can't undo it. All right? And I apologise for that. I will apologise that happened to you, because it shouldn't have.
There's no good apologising, mate.
And there shouldn't have been false, and there shouldn't have been false promises. All right? So
It's not your fault, mate. It's the whole setup. I'm not blaming you. The whole setup is it's a joke.
Let's capture it, and we'll look at it when it's cooled off and we're in a position to do so.
I think it'll get worse.
What's the excuses of road closures before Sunday? There was no tree falling over the road.
I don't know, unless it was prep work, and we knew the conditions were coming and the fires were there, so I would have said.
Not to say why, because it actually endangered.
It could have been, I don't know, I wasn't here when that decision was
That
made.
is the problem.
I haven't made any inquiry into that, and that will be someone else more qualified than me to do. Is there, sorry.
Who is someone else?
It depends which forum it goes in. There's a number of forums that can go in.
No,
You need to deal with
Oh,
government.
what we got strike here, we should relieve from someone else, we should relieve someone else. Everyone's making a different decision, we've got no fire.
Post-fire analysis is either done by one or two things, and it'll be government-appointed inquiry or coronial investigation. Coroner doesn't need a death to investigate. Well, at least he's a magistrate, he's impartial, and he can look into the issues. Now, can we deal with the operational questions?
Yeah, I've got, I'm not local here, people probably don't know, I'm from New South Wales. It seems that one of the biggest problems that everyone has here is the slowness of your communications. You make a decision here, it's got to go through your region, into Melbourne and back again. That seems to be a big hold up in what's going on, also with your information. Is there some way that you can put in place through your office in Bendock that can short track all that so it doesn't have to take time going through Melbourne and back again?
No operational decisions are made. The strategic state decisions are made in Melbourne. Operational decisions are still made at the local level. Once a controller is appointed to a fire, they have power over that landscape area. So they're given an area footprint, they have power over it to make those decisions. So there shouldn't be interference from stuff other than things like finite resources, like aircraft, stuff like that. State make the decision who gets what, where, how. Once the requests go in, but the requests and the tasking of that sort is all a local decision, and it's managed.
My point, as I'm trying to move forward, that seems to have not happened, like the Penry doesn't seem to be happy with that. What I would like to see is something come out of the meeting where that can be short-tracked so they can get their information and decisions can be made quickly. Is there something that you can do with that?
Look, the answer is I know how I work and how my team works, and I'm pretty comfortable with my team's working at the moment, but there's obviously issues and there's been breakdowns over the course of Saturday, Sunday. And there's been promises made to people that weren't followed through, and they are issues that need to be reviewed, and I think you know, because I spoke to you before the meeting, but after some of the information we received yesterday, we've already started partial investigation. Logbooks being looked at, people being asked what was said to who and when, especially in relation to tasking up and around this valley. All right? So, from yesterday, we are on it to capture that stuff before people get too far afield. Logbooks disappear, so we're trying to capture that for you. I think I gave a couple of people undertaking that we would do that, and we started that last night, started that work overnight. Now, I can't deal with it for you.
I've done a bit of checking, another issue about fuel reduction. We didn't stand a chance, and everyone should have known it, so there's been no fuel reduction.
So anyway, all I can do is take your issues and say, we'll action them through the appropriate channels if we can. Sorry, question?
None.
I'd like to add really to what John Evans was saying a few minutes ago in regard to Sunday night, when between approximately 11 and 12:30 at night, many tankers, the entire stream of them came through from Devon past my place.
Oh, you were lucky.
And no, they didn't stop. No, they didn't stop. I was wondering where they were going at that time. Obviously, that was an extremely critical time for the people in Cameron Disco. And I was told when I asked the next day that they'd simply gone back to Delegate, all of them.
I can't answer that.
And I do query the nature of it, because I'd been told earlier that day that they would be off the road because of, now hang on, let me say it, I've been told by the sector controllers that they'd be off the road between approximately 4 and 8 that evening, which was when they expected, you know, the most vehement weather changes to come in. But they gave assurances that I don't believe were followed up, they gave assurances that after 8 they would be back on the road. I saw them all pass, and I believe, you know, I'm happy to stand corrected, I believe they simply went back to the road.
Look, I can't, I want, next morning. Look, if you're going to ask me questions about what happened Saturday, Sunday, I can take queries back to inquire about. I really can't answer because I wasn't here.
Why didn't you bring someone with you today who answer our questions?
Nobody currently in our team was.
Well, why didn't you supply us with something? We know everything you're telling us, we've been here.
So, now, can I say, we'll get to the bits about what you want to tell us and what you want us to take away. We'll get
Are you going to record it?
I want to move to
is it going to be documented?
It's being recorded and it's being documented. All right? It is.
I asked a forward question.
Forward question.
Why, as I understand, the roadblock is still at Dyer River? That's right.
There's roadblocks south to Goongerah.
You didn't say that. You said roadblocks still
If I wasn't clear, I'm sorry. There's roadblocks down to Goongerah down from Bendock down to Goongerah and up to Bonang Road from Orbost. Roadblocks are still in place there. There's no roadblocks on the Killips or down the East Country Road.
Roadblocks at our
When
place
were they
still at the
released?
tip.
When were they released?
Last night.
Just after.
Just another one, with being delegate all this week, one of the messages that came through to the relief centre was that delegate was being evacuated. It was actually Delegate River. And as I was sitting there, we'd just come from the hospital where I work, and I realised it probably wasn't delegate. And I asked them to make a phone call now to find out. So what I'm saying there is when messages come through, future, we can't change the past, as you said, is make sure they get the names right. Unfortunately, in some small areas you have very similar names, so all I'm asking is make sure they get it right, because it said the drain up many pipes at that time.
We heard that one a couple of days ago too, and the messaging, we actually did query that, and the messaging that went out was the warnings and advice people, it was actually well documented, so whoever's picked it up.
But the phones were right, on our phones, but it's the phone call that was made that someone took was wrong. So, yeah, unfortunately, the relief, just for future.
We did look into that, and that's, thank you very much.
When you come and check my fire plan out, right, they never even asked me about the computer, mate, they just surmised it, right? Okay, I've got a mate around the corner, his computer got blown out by lightning 4 weeks ago, so he's got no computer. If you haven't got a computer, and you can't go to the meetings because they're in delegate, and there's a roadblock set up, and you cannot get through that roadblock and get back, how are the people supposed to get information? The ABC radio told me to go 4 times. I'm not hanging shit on them, but that's what they told me. They told me nothing where the fires are, no information at all. We have 9 households in this area. I think that we could have had a little bit of personal contact, mate. There's not 5,000 people here. 9 households. Nothing. They drove past my place up and down everywhere. Nothing. You know, is that part of the fire plan to have communication? Well, where was it? Was it there, mate?
When did either Deputy CFA ambulances check on who has survived the fire? When was the process in place for that?
The lost stuff happened on Monday, as far as I'm aware. It was certainly done before I arrived on Tuesday night. So, and that's done in conjunction with Toilet Hospital. It captured in a number of ways, but it was apparently done on Monday. We were still looking for people clarifying safety issues on Wednesday and Thursday. A couple of people hadn't been accounted for by relatives, and fire crews and Victoria Police did welfare checks on those people. But there were, if you like, individual safety checks, I was told, were part of the lost stuff on Monday after Sunday. So, and I wasn't here, I can't.
The only way people would know we were there, they could see our lights on, but we couldn't see it, was because that maybe someone on the radio had mentioned our name. That's the only way they'd know. And I rang up Stephanie on Monday morning and said, I'm just letting you know we're still alive. But no one came here, no one went past. And we went to bed at 5 a.m. in the morning. And no one came. They didn't even come in our area. We've got a lot of planning and stuff happening. At least the bloody trucks were here.
Look, I want to move on, get through the agenda, and then we can talk about some of this stuff. Richard, did you want to talk about access, or are you happy that I've covered it? I reckon I've covered it.
Well, there's nothing I can say. Roadblocks did my other people for safety. I know no one's happy about them. I know it's been inconvenient for some people, but you've
just got to keep it in perspective. Some people have lost their houses, Russell. Okay?
Yeah, I know that.
It's all relative, mate.
Most of the people that lost their house are people that didn't stay. That explains itself. That explains itself.
I'm just
Yeah.
hearing that.
CFA won't fix it for you.
The only houses here that were saved by people that bloody stayed.
That's not actually true.
Yeah, look, post Black Saturday, all I looked after was fatality scenes. I saw a lot of people dead in houses, and I saw a lot of people that stayed to protect their houses die. So, I mean, there's no right or wrong on that, and we're not going to solve that here. So,
I can't think
I'm
of a
really
better way.
thankful that nobody's hurt here, and that's, I go with that. Can I move on to recovery? Darren, do you want to talk about, here he is, just from the perspective of recovery.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Darren Hickey. I work in the farm services area of Debbie. I suppose I'm going to make 4 points about what we've been doing in ag recovery, what we're doing now, what we have been doing, and what we're planning on doing. So I'm based down at the Deputy Office in Bairnsdale, and I've been working out of the Control Centre in Orbost since Monday or Tuesday. So my job was to coordinate 2 field teams out of the Orbost Control Centre. We had 2 field teams on the ground on Tuesday, and some of you here may have had contact with those field teams. We had some animal health officers, and we had some farm services officers. So their primary objective that early in the week was to attend to urgent animal welfare issues, and I know that there were some, and they did attend to them. Those crews did pretty much what they could do, everything they could do, and were stood down and went back to their base on Thursday. The second point that is involved here with ag recovery is we've been in the process of, I suppose, capturing as accurate a picture as we can of the loss and damage that's been experienced on the impact in primary industries, on farming areas, in private land. And the reason we capture that information is so that we can send that information, I suppose, back to the government so they can put together whatever response it is they feel is appropriate. And it's also so that we can get information about who needs what sort of assistance and on the ground locally, so we can plan whatever operations we need to do. The third point is as our teams move around the area, and as I make contact with people over the phone from Orbost, we hear about various needs, and what we do is we provide a bit of a referral process that might be for animal health issues, it might be for agronomic, animal health type issues, and it might also be some sort of personal assistance, and we'll refer that on. Now the fourth point that I'll make is something else that we've been doing, and we're continuing to do, is to facilitate fodder coordination. So we've got fodder being donated. This is being coordinated by the Victorian Farmers Federation with assistance by the National Farmers Federation. So the VFF, we have an agreement with the VFF to coordinate those deliveries or those donations of fodder. We try and work out the best place, the safest place to put that fodder so it then can be fairly and equitably accessed by those who have the most need. That fodder is considered emergency fodder, and it's designed to get people to an emergency situation to give stock something, I suppose, something to chew on. And then we've had some fodder. My understanding is that this morning we've had, from the phone call I've had this morning, we've had 3 deliveries of fodder. A total of 56 round bales have been delivered. That probably doesn't sound a lot, but like I said, it's emergency fodder. We've had 3 truckloads come in, and with the understanding that those producers with livestock that have urgent needs would be distributed to them on an emergency basis. So those are the 4 things that we've been doing in ag recovery. That's that urgent animal welfare assistance, and we have been doing that. It's that loss and damage assessment so that we can find out who needs what and what the damage is, and so that we can work with our colleagues in East Gippsland Shire Council, particularly with that fencing issue, what we do about how much fencing has been destroyed and what needs to be replaced, those referrals and that fodder coordination. And I suppose another role that I've been doing and our teams have been doing is probably trying to facilitate or broker solutions for individual problems around the area as they come up. And there are a few examples of how we've tried to facilitate solutions for particular individuals who had various needs for their livestock. So with us in ag recovery, we're not a fire service like the particular branch that I work in farm service. We're not really a fire service. We have to work under the authority and under the control of the fire services. We have limitations as to we can't get through traffic control points unless we're given special authority or permission to do so. But I suppose fortunately our animal health teams, you might have seen driving around the area on Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday, were given some degree of access to attend to those urgent issues. So that's a bit of a snapshot of what we've been doing. I know you're really keen to get back to what's been happening with the fire. I'm happy to take a question or two if anyone's got a question. And I'm also here to, if anyone's got any information they want to report to me, I can capture that information today and take that back with me, or any requests. And the other thing is, people who have livestock who want to update or just refresh their knowledge about animal nutritional requirements, I've got some handouts and some brochures here, pasture recovery, assessing burned livestock, that sort of thing. You want to just brush up on that knowledge, I've got a bit of information so you can take that away with you. Yes, the back.
Me?
Yes, you.
Today, well, you might remember me from the delegate meeting. I did ask you whether you could put my place on your list.
And we did.
And you did, and I'd like to hear what you found.
I rang you and left a message.
Well, whereabouts?
On both the numbers you gave me.
Well,
yeah.
I don't have a message, so perhaps you could relay it to me now.
Okay.
There we are.
Yeah,
we deal with individual issues.
Well, I would really like to make sure that happens. Thanks.
Catch you
Right
later.
down here, Win.
Yeah.
All right. Any other?
You were mentioning the being able to get through with the special permits and everything in case of emergency. I don't know whether it's you or the fire brigade. If this fire flares up and goes again, are we able to get assistance from people that wish to come in and give us a hand? I have a son in Bombala who is a mechanic, who was prepared to come and help his father, who is 80 years old. He was not allowed in. He nearly had to throttle him to get through. You're only 21, sorry.
Yes.
But anyway, did he have a problem to be allowed to get in?
To do what?
To give us a hand.
On the farm, yeah.
Look, to fix the machinery so that we can protect our farm.
Yeah, so I mean, we had examples of where there were people who needed to get through roadblocks to get onto a property to help out with the livestock issues. Like I said, we negotiate that with the fire services, we negotiate that with the police, and it's up to the fire services and the police to give the yes or no as to who gets through.
The runaround he gets is ridiculous. I don't know, he nearly blew his phone up from 8 o'clock or 12 o'clock and he said, I'm going, whatever you want to do.
Yeah, one of those, look, this comes up.
It's a simpler way of getting through.
Look, you might be the lucky part of other parts of the state who deal with this stuff.
I'm not worried about that.
But can I say, people give lots of stories to police members, to traffic management points. They're looters, they're rubberneckers, they are just troublemakers, and we get a lot of that. And
my son was
If you're talking after the event, we're talking fire.
What I wish to know is my son is a mechanic. He can soon tell a policeman locally who he is, what qualifications he's got, who he belongs to. Can he get through a roadblock to come to us if we need him?
It depends. There are a number of levels of accesses around that, and the answer is it's not straightforward. It's not a yes or no. The answer is
The answer is no bullshit.
Look, this is just a suggestion. We raise motocross, we sign indemnity forms to say that we're not going to sue anybody. Is there a way around roadblocks like that? Can we sign a piece of paper to say we will not hold anybody responsible for what happens to us? We need to get through. There's got to be some common sense in this.
The answer is at the moment the law says you can't contract out of statutory liability, and the liability for us in fire is statutory. The answer is it might need review. If it does post fire, please have that input. I'm not going to solve that input.
I always thought you drive at your own risk anyway. If the tree falls over the road before a fire, you still drive once it's
What's the standard order, mate, for protection properties and assets, mate? What's your standing order? What are you required to do? The CFA, you in the CFA? Yeah, right. What's your standing order?
Well, I can tell you...
The protection.
The protection of priorities. Protection of human life is the first thing we look at, and that's number one.
Right.
Second thing we're instructed to look at is issuing the timely warnings to actually support of human life. That's the second thing. Third thing, you might like hearing it, it's not your place, but critical public infrastructure. So your power, your phones, the stuff you're going to need, either during or post-fire, to keep yourselves in and out. Then it comes down to other assets. And so it's private home, and that's why, and I'm really sorry about the promise that was made to you last weekend, because every CFA person, if you're a member of CFA, you'll know this, we can't guarantee a fire truck at everybody's door.
Mate, you told us, excuse me, you told us up here, no, but someone from your crew, right, that there would be a strike team, mate, and we would get familiar with that strike team. That never happened, mate. Yeah, well, why didn't it happen? You know, why, that's a basic thing. Why did that not happen? I'm asking you a question, you answer it.
I can't.
Right, you can't answer that?
There shouldn't have been promises made they couldn't keep, and
right.
I can't answer that.
Are they required to spray fire retardant on abandoned houses, right, 20 metres from a person's house that's going to stay and defend that house? Is there a requirement there with fire retardants? No requirement?
There's no specific requirements in relation to that.
Okay, so you leave the fire hazard there, don't do nothing, just drive around and look at it? Well, that's what they done, mate.
No, I can't.
I was here, and that's what they did. Is there anyone from the forestry here?
Sure.
Pardon?
Sorry?
Anyone from the forestry?
If it's done...
No, is there anyone from the forestry in this room? Whatever they want to call themselves, mate, they change their name every year. Is there anyone from the parks or the forestry here?
Yeah, I'll deal with you after the meeting.
No, I don't want to deal with you now, mate. We'll talk later. I want to talk to someone from the parks or the forestry. Is there anyone here?
When it comes to fire management, talk to me.
No, I want to talk about fire management. I want to talk about preparation, mate. Is there anyone from the department here?
We're not going to talk about that now.
Well, is there someone from the department here? You can answer that, can't you? Beg your pardon?
All right, we've dealt with agriculture, had your opportunity question. Can I hand over now to Yvette from DHS? Just wants to talk a bit about some of the other recoveries.
I can hear loud and clear that this community here is very emotional. Russell, I hear you loud and clear that you're all emotional. I hear you loud and clear that you've all got some queries that you want answered. That tells me that there's a lot of stuff going on here. What I want to say to you is that we have got some supports in place for all of you. In terms of, I brought some kits after the fire. I know it doesn't help in the queries that you've got, but it is important to be looking after yourself just as much emotionally as you are in the practical sense. We have some payments as well that we can look at for people who have been dislocated from their homes. We'll look at that. The other thing, some of you have got kids, okay, and I don't mean you guys who are bigger kids, but I want to think about the kids as well, because that impacts how you feel, impacts on the younger kids as well. We've got some stuff, some books and resources for helping kids get through this. If you're feeling shit and upset and emotional, imagine how the kids are feeling anxious. So think about them as well. Don't put this stuff to one side. Help them as much as it helps everyone else get through that. That's what I'd like to leave you with, some of these resources. We've brought a chaplain up here to talk with you. After things settle down is when a lot of people start getting what I call the wobbles and do need support. What I am hearing from all of you here is that you're a good, strong community, okay? And you do support one another. And I think that is the strength for a lot of the communities we're seeing.
We're pretty used to being sheep along there.
Okay.
Regularly.
Okay, I hear you. Okay, that's all I'm going to say.
I'd like to say, I believe that you attend very well and pay off for some things, but I think it's not going to be something offensive to everybody here to write off their most serious practical concerns as emotional issues.
Sorry, I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
But you did come on that. in his notes.
Okay, I'm sorry. What I have said is that I understand the practical, but I'm also looking at the emotional as well. I don't want to overlook that either. So, okay, I'm sorry if that's how you... That not only are there practical issues, there are also emotional issues, and they shouldn't be overlooked either, okay? And there's little I as a person can do, but I can try and support and bring what resources we've got and look at where we can support. Council is also here. There is recovery numbers. If there are support lines, please, I'm going to be here afterwards. I'm happy to catch up with you. I do not want to speak to people individually, but I'm happy to, here in this meeting, but I'm happy to speak to them after and discuss the options I've got for them, okay? Sure. Absolutely.
In case all this is going to happen, and I'm sure it's going to happen again, can we have that emotional support by our family before the accident happened? Because I had my kids very willingly wanting to come out and help, not only fighting the fire, but also to support us. And they were nowhere else to come out.
Okay.
And that's what Helen was saying before. Okay. So it's all right to say we've got all this in place now. Well, sorry, but no, I'm going
to follow on from Patricia momentarily, and it's not that I'm disparaging, but many of the issues you are referring to as emotional are quite simply unaddressed practical issues.
Okay.
I think that's a pretty good point. There's obviously been a lot of issues here before this fire, and that's great, and the fire's just triggered an emotional response to some of those. Seen some of those, and give you a bit of an idea. After yesterday, with a couple of senior people visiting the area, we've gone back. The recovery operations, which generally go a bit piecemeal until the fire is contained, we've given priority to. At state level last night, the decision made to send forward a very senior recovery coordinator to coordinate all the services, be they council, be they agricultural, be they through rural assist or through DHS. There's both operational and obviously strategic issues there. We received great support last night, and that was as a response to the feedback from the ground. So, we do listen to you and try and put things in place. And I can't undo things that are done, but I'll listen to you and put things in place to try and expedite assistance programs or whatever we will.
There's a question of night patrols. Sorry, there's a question of night patrols I'd like to address to Scott Armstrong.
I think the biggest problem is we expect that the fire brigade will help us and be there to assist us. And you'll see them lined up along the road and they're filled with stones and blowing cricket. All this garbage filling in their time. It must be as much frustration for them as not having anything to do when they get here as it is for us watching them.
And I'll be at those guys too, yeah.
But why haven't they? Why does that happen? Is there a system that there could be a local go with those ones that come in? I know they change over every so often, but isn't there a system you can get someone to say, okay, I'm your head of your strike team, I will take you.
There are processes to embed locals into those things, and some of that didn't happen here. And that's another question to be answered. Look, it's another question to be answered. This one's already been posed to us.
Well, why hasn't it already been done?
It's been posed to us.
First time it's that topic.
When I asked you about the criteria in the safety area, there was a safety zone issued in Calvin Ingram's paddock on Sunday afternoon. What's the criteria for that? Is there supposed to be 5 vehicles present all the time, or can they go home at 2 o'clock and just leave? You don't know the criteria for the safety area? If there was a safety area allotted at Calvin Ingram's, we were told to go there. If we wanted to evacuate, go to that area. There was floats, bulldozers, people's vehicles, okay?
There is criteria.
What is your criteria for a safety area?
Well, it's not my criteria, it's in
No,
legislation.
CFA are in control of it and the forestry. You're both there, so who was in control? You or them?
There's no, to my knowledge, there's no noted safe area in this part of the world.
Well, that was issued as a safe area, and all these people at Bonang that were in these houses, they know that it was. Okay? I'm asking these questions, mate, for these people, because next time we get a fire, we want to know what's going to go on, mate. Okay? So if you could answer them questions, right, it'd be really helpful to everyone in this room. And I want to know the criteria of safety area. Do you know the criteria of it?
Haven't got it.
If this hall was renowned as a safety or evacuation point, what is the criteria for use base? Are you supposed to stay and protect it, or what are you supposed to do?
Is it, if it's nominated as a neighbourhood safe place, there's criteria for it. I haven't got it with me, and it's.
Can you talk up a bit, mate?
It's quite complex. I can't say.
You can't say what the criteria is for a safety area. So if you arrive at a safety area...
I haven't got it with me. I haven't got it with me. All right?
Mate,
Because I'll tell you where to find it. But I haven't got it with me.
So how do the blokes that are here, how do they know what to do? If they don't, you don't know what to do, how do they know what to do? What someone tell them?
I can tell you what the criteria is down at Kelvin. They come and said, oh, you've got to leave your home. Went down there. We're all standing, probably bloody 100 of us there. Maybe 50 bloody slip-on units. Grader comes in, it's green grass, the grader cruises in, I talk to the grader driver, works at Fox, put a track round us all, nice round circle, and then a bloke called PJ, I think his name was, he's the spokesman, he's an advisor, he said, he pointed to like here, about a metre from his foot, and he said, we're going to get a spot fire here later on today, but he said, he looked at the firefighters and he said, oh, you can please yourself whether you put it out or not, because there'll be one more, there'll be another. And that's a frigging refuge area. You're told to go there to be safe, and they say, oh, if there's a fire there, we'll let it burn, for Christ's sake.
There's a number of issues to be followed.
Yeah, there is.
Another thing, there's never been any fires put out yet. All you're doing there is making bigger.
Yeah, there are some. Yeah, look, this is a huge fire. Look, as I said, it's a huge fire. When we've actually got, in the last 24 hours, we've had probably better containment success than we had in the last week. So it's
that's because it's bloody put itself out.
Sorry?
That's because it's put itself out.
Yeah, well, the weather's getting kinder to us to allow us to do other things too. So. All right, can I ask, and I want to, but the answer is, no, if it doesn't affect others, can I ask you to come and see us individually with your issues? Are there any community issues that haven't already been put in one way or another? Okay, because I want to allow you to get home, I want to allow you to start accessing services. Now, I will ask something of you, and I know some of you probably aren't happy with what you've heard, but we've got some maps, got some newsletters. There are people that probably aren't here out of your communities. If I could ask you, please, to inform them that at least there are services out there. If you could take in the newsletter, I'd really appreciate it. Whether, you know, regardless of what you think, some other people might be hurting too and might want to access some of those services. I could ask that of you, I would appreciate it. And whilst the fire's active and we're still fighting it, cooperation's appreciated, and I know the frustration's
Can I say something about the 1300 number for the Allbox Centre? I had to ring up several times about different things, but specifically on one line, and not always someone there to address the issue. They say they're either at a meeting, they're getting debriefed or whatever, and they'll call you back. You get a message that says they'll call you back, so you hang around, and you know that there's fires out the back, and you've got other issues to deal with, so the pressure is on to get out of the house as soon as possible, and you're still waiting for this phone call. So there was Monday, I spent the whole day on the phone, at home, waiting for someone to come and deal with animals that have been destroyed. Now, can we do something about these phones? So can we have 2 or 3 more lines and 3 or 4 more people so that there's someone there actually saying, yes, I can deal with it right now?
From where I sit, I went and had a look at that when I arrived. I think it's a reasonable switch. Making sure there's people in place to answer phones. We don't take everybody off the meeting's probably a bigger issue. We've logged it, and I'll go back and talk to the team about some ways we might improve that.
Because when I had those phone calls, I ended up in Shepparton and Ballarat. And it's not
Are you
that.
trying to push fire information line or the
I don't know, it's that bulletin, that information.
Push fire information line, you do it, yeah.
You know?
So into Allbox itself, there are a number of lines in the, I can work on that one for you.
I'll give you an idea how bad it is. I have been transferred to mobile message banks 15 times.
Me too, Dave.
I have been, we had an officer that we are expected to have faith in from tomorrow onwards as an ops officer for the fire, he stood up here at a meeting and categorically shut in my face when I said that number is not always manned. Now, my standard answer when I ring to get information, when they see my number, it is bang, straight, I'll transfer you. I have been transferred to a duty officer, an incident controller that left Orbost 28 hours before because it's so easy to transfer a problem to a mobile message bank. The person answered me phone. Another issue, this gentleman will help you tomorrow. He's a gun, he's a beauty, he's good at solving problems. So I rang next morning, could I speak to XY please? I don't know what you want him for. Well, I was told he was going to fix the problem or give me information. He's been off duty for 2 days and he's not due back for another one.
And we have a lot of unreal expectations, so we need to, as a team, we need to be clearer with you and honest with you about what we can and can't do, and what we can't do, because there's things at the moment we can't get to.
It's been going on.
We need to be honest about it.
It's been going on, right? The office number in Orbost, 4 years ago, New Year's Eve, fire in the pine forest. They had a billy fire near a populated area. We had a fire in a pine forest right next to the community where it shouldn't have been put. I rang the number 4 times, straight through the message bank, and we had to ring AAA.
And that's one of the reasons I'm
Sorry,
concerned
David,
about
thanks.
trolls.
Robert, sorry.
I just want to make a couple of points to everybody here. The first one is, this bloke's probably got the worst job in Victoria today. He's not the person I personally blame.
No, none of us do, Robert. We blame the whole
I've got other points to make.
setup.
I've got other points to make. It is important that you write down what's happened to you as soon as possible. Don't delay it, write it down, and you will add to it as things come to you. It is very important, if this becomes a judicial matter, that your evidence is correct and accurate, no mistakes. I'd stress all of you to do it, all of you. Collectively, that will make a big difference. Thank you.
Good advice.
Mark, just another one. When I was at the meeting on Wednesday in Delegate, which none of these people could make, well, some of them were there, but most were down here, looking after their properties. I think you've got strategic lines on that map over there. I asked that map to be emailed to me and I was told that it would be, because I feel that those were the strategic lines where you're going to control burns from. Now these haven't got it on it. And the fallback lines where would be really important information for people in this community if they saw new fires starting, to know that's what it was. And I didn't actually get that through, so I would have emailed to my members in the community I was contacting.
Look, we've got some maps with me which you wasn't drawing.
But it's not on this map, Julie. There's a yellow line and a purpley and black line, because I know where they were.
And the other thing is, New South Wales have actually been helping us do a hell of a lot of work on that, some of the Victorian matters.
But it would be really, it still would be extremely helpful to all these members, especially all along the valley.
Yeah, and I think that information we haven't bedded it all down totally 100% committed to for works and stuff. So once it's done, happy to share it.
Someone can bring them into the communities.
Yeah, and look, that's fair. And we're planning. There are 4 information sessions planned, and I don't know if there'll be one here, but there are some planned the next few days. We will get that information out once it's confirmed, but at the moment it's still in draft. Sorry?
Scott, I was just wondering, are those cross lines around the small fires for stuff up around here, control lines, or are they just down into the burnt area?
Where it's crossed line, that's where we've actually got to control.
So all the rough edges are pretty much laid out around into one. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes. Somebody's got to stop on the road, there's nothing we can do about it.
And you need to put signage, and I'd ask everyone to slow down and not drive like maniacs, especially in heavy vehicles, which they tend to do.
Just got one question. You other fires that were lit with the lightning strikes that went through, other than the large complex, I think Combined Bar, Erindale was one of them. There's another one on a ridge near Bulldog. Can you give us an update on what those other fires are doing as well?
Yeah.
So the answer is the one up on the Erindale had a little bit of heat in the guts, and the edges look really good. But again, the stuff that's going to give us really good intelligence, line scan and FLIR, been grounded for a couple of days. We've got an urgent request in because the smoke's lifted and the clouds at a good height. We've got an urgent request in today for line scan. It may have even happened while I was up here, but I didn't move the plane. Yeah. When we get that data, but they were flown yesterday, and from an air observer, generally pretty quiet. There was a bit of line work we wanted to touch up on the one closest to Club Terrace. Do a little bit of work on, but other than that, most of the edges on that were very quiet. So those external fires, we were hoping to put under control statuses with tracking on today, or certainly last night or today. And some of that work may happen overnight, I wouldn't believe it this morning, but generally pretty good was the word, and subject to the one scan.
And of course all that information goes to the RFS as well?
Yeah, your guys are in there when that comes through. As I said, we've got an RFS deputy controller at the moment. The plan is to keep that in the structure. So.
Cool, thank you.
And part of their job's cross-border liaison. So.
Good. There's a lot of extra farmland that's not noted on this.
It's being burnt. Yeah, and we know that. I said to you earlier on that the map...
This is today, done this morning, 6 o'clock this morning.
It was printed this morning. I said confidence in that. We haven't been able to get good aerial intelligence. I don't have... There'll be areas in there that you know about that we don't. And I said that up front at the start of the meeting, so I have no doubt about that. But as far as we know, it's black and no one's got any concerns with it. So other than we need to capture it, there's no concerns from the fire operations. Are there any other questions from the community point of view while we've got the players in front of you to answer, or do you want to see us one-on-one?
Could you please answer a question about night patrols? There certainly haven't been any at some critical points through the Tubbage area. And I'll just, winds can back up. I know that more recently, since the Otway people there's been a later swing shift, but prior to that, on the really critical days, there were no night patrols.
Because there wasn't the capacity, the resources to do it. So as we've had resources become available, we didn't have quite enough to go to a full night shift, so we've been running that swing shift late in the day till the early hours of the morning. And we found that to be quite effective because between, say, 2 and 6 in the morning, there's not much need for it to be there. So
will you continue as you continue
at this
to
stage, we intend to continue.
Subject to where it's required in the building. But there's a lot of really quality. Sorry, John.
One thing I was going to add, shortly after this fire went through on Sunday, myself and my father didn't only say try and do what we could on our farm. We actually ventured out and actually seen if the other people were alright. We didn't go to a whole lot of places, but where we could help, we did. And when we were on our way back, we come across, I think it's 2 or 3 deputy vehicles, or parks vehicles, and they were sitting around waiting for an excavator to shift the tree. Now, I know there was a few CFA trucks around at the time too. Now, last time I checked, and I'm not a CFA firefighter by any means, but my father is, and I have had a look over the truck once or twice. That does contain a chainsaw. And I'm pretty sure you guys have the training facility to work a chainsaw. You know, they're not overly big trees. They can surely whip that out and start doing some damage with it. I need to get some vehicles through. And it was just, everything was too hard for the deputy and the CFA guys. And to their credit, the CFA guys did not get called out here to do nothing. And it's from higher authorities that they're told to do nothing. And that's why they're twiddling their thumbs half the time, as Alan said before. And
also we drove past 2 strike teams, looking after 2 houses, and bugger the rest of them.
And look, I know some of you probably did have direct experience. Can I say, look for the sign on the side of the car that says strike team leader. Don't be afraid to stop and have a chat and ask questions.
They won't tell you a bloody thing.
Well,
and I know I came down home and I said, where are you going today? There's 4 fellas who are going down the road to go to Willis Road. I said, what's out there? Well, we've got to find Willis Road first. They never had anyone to guide them. And then when the next day came back home that night, and I was talking to Clark this morning, he said, don't ask for local information because I'm not allowed to give it. He said that they said, oh, we'll have to go to the dedicated to get water. He said, there's water down there in that private property, I know where it is, can't go there. And they were 100 yards off. They couldn't do it. Now, that's got to improve. If we're going to have these fires for another week, lucky the good Lord has given us better weather.
And I think it's very important that 3 men went and tried to put out some fires there in the polytechnic. And deputy vehicles and another CFA vehicles were there. And they were standing back watching. So 3 men.
They wouldn't go in those trees there.
They came out from losing the property
Look, I think the
and went around and looked at everybody as a neighbour.
I think the big issue here is tasking and the support to residences, and I've heard you loud and clear.
If 3 men can do it, surely for God's sake, here mate, I'll come and put a hose on it.
I'm hearing you.
Well,
I'll
You're
take
not
it.
doing
I'll take
anything
it.
about it.
I'll ask the question.
it's like standing there and watching someone die. Look, if you die, you die. But we're here watching. Well, what's the point?
They make you angry like sitting there and looking at you than if they weren't there at all.
And that's fair.
And this is on top of Philip and James. We were sitting on our hill watching Philip and James putting out the embers in their paddock, which they had about 10 seconds to do before the smoke rolled in. And they actually attended to their property and then they went elsewhere. And they also went to Nola's and put water at the back of their shed.
Look, folks, look, as I said,
They were the only people
there's a
we
million.
saw on our road.
Yeah, and there are, I'll get dozens of these stories and I'm here.
No,
All I
it
can say,
won't.
well, I hope,
It's just in a very
well, I hope,
restricted
I hope
area
you're
of
documented.
finance,
Can I,
and that's it of
can
our
I ask you
road.
to talk to me outside of the meeting?
Yeah.
I will
Why,
say,
you're
I'm,
driving inside, eh?
no, I'm not.
Well, why outside?
Look, there's enough here. We've done it to death. And look, can I say to you, I will make, and it is heartfelt, I'm very, very sorry for what you've experienced. I can't speak for the people that were here, but from where I sit, I'm very sorry you've experienced those things. Certainly not something that I like to hear, because I'm part of the agencies and I think we should behave better than that in some cases. But until I know the full story, I don't have answers for you. I can only say.
Well, you need to have an inquiry.
And I think you've pretty well said we need to go back.
It's not a very good recommendation to join the fire brigade.
Well, you don't make change from outside too often, get inside.
I'd like to
All right.
what the citizens in their defence.
Darren's outside, so